So it's officially that time. Madden 21 has now officially released on all consoles for everyone, and it's time to play that age-old game, Does It Suck? So basically, I'm going to be reviewing all of Madden 21, and I'm going to be breaking it up into multiple different parts. We're going to have gameplay, franchise, face of the franchise, Superstar KO, the yard, and MUT, and then a how to fix section, and it's all going to be in that order. And I will leave a bunch of titles in the description if you want to fast forward to a certain part that you want to hear my thoughts about. And I'm just letting you guys know this is my opinion. If you disagree, that's totally fine, but I'm just telling you guys how I see the game. And yeah, if you disagree, yeah. We're going to start with gameplay. One of the most important aspects of a sports game is how the game plays. If it's realistic, obviously you're not going to be able to have the most realistic. It's a video game. You can't just simulate everything perfectly, but you still want to get a good feel for how you're playing football in a football game or how you're playing basketball in a basketball game. You want it to feel as if it's a realistic simulation. And the gameplay is literally the exact same as last year. There are some minor tweaks and changes, but overall it just feels the exact same. The only new mechanic that they introduced to the game was a setting that allows you to change how deep your players sit in certain coverages. Honestly, that was a W. That was a great addition into Madden. You're allowing us the freedom to control our players, and also we get to personally counter certain pass plays. But that is the only good thing about the gameplay. Offensively, all skill moves have been nerfed, so if you want a juke or spin, yeah, good luck with that. You're gonna get one right in every 30 attempts. And there is one defining issue that is the cause of this horrible gameplay that Madden has had for the past 5 or 6 years, and that is the Frostbite engine. I mean, the fact that they are using the Frostbite engine, which was made for first-person shooters, is the main issue here. I don't know if EA even knows this because they probably don't even care, but fun fact, football is not a first-person shooter. They are very different. There are almost no the similarity is that they both run and occasionally jog. You need to change your game engine. Do you want to know why people love looking back at the 2K football games, which are 10, sometimes almost 15 years old? It's because the game engine was built around a sports video game. The games just look more solid and fluid, and honestly, even older Madden games had better, more realistic graphics and simulations than the current games do. When Madden 16 introduced all the different types of catching you can do, it made the game so OP because your wide receiver is not going to get 3 one-handed catches against a DB every single time in a game. It boggles my mind that EA has a Frostbite engine for both Madden and FIFA. I'm really hoping that in the PS5 they have a new engine built, but I honestly doubt it because EA doesn't give a shit about their fans. I will say the other changes that did come was the defensive playbook has kind of been opened up now. You can choose more than just like a cover 3 or a cover 4. Man defense is actually usable this year. Usually whenever you're playing in man defense in past Maddens, you're just going to get burnt, so there's no point in touching man defenses. So the fact that you can actually use a man defense this year is kind of a positive. But at the same time, within the defensive playbook opening, there are still so many flaws. Like going back to man defense, if you run man defense and your offense runs a slant play, that defensive player is going to get beat right away because for some reason they just stand there until they've hit the slant, so you're getting a free 5 yards. But besides the Frostbite engine, the biggest hands down issue with the Madden football games, X Factors. X Factors are fun, but they need to go. The introduction of X Factors was a cool idea, but it's taking the whole point of a simulation game out of it. X Factors do not make it a simulation football game, it makes it an arcade football game. And the fact that Madden is the only game that has allowed simulation football games based on NFL player likenesses really boggles my mind. The fact that we can use these arcade-ish games, but it's a simulation game, but in reality, there's nothing simulation about this. X Factors can be fun if used properly, like in an arcade game mode if they were to introduce it, similar to the yard, but it shouldn't be in competitive game modes like MUT or head-to-head seasons or anything like that, or it shouldn't be in franchise either where you're trying to build a realistic team because that takes the simulation base out of it. But for Superstar KO and the yard, it does make sense because those are arcade football games. So if you want to put X Factors in the game, which are a great idea, you can do that, but don't put it in the simulation versions of the game. Put it in the arcade games. When you're playing with X Factors online in either MUT or head-to-head seasons, it honestly gives other players an unfair advantage, especially in MUT when there's players who can just spend so much more money on the game than others can. Other issues with gameplay, the O-line and wide receiver blocking is absolutely broken. I mean, I don't understand why whenever I mic a certain player on the defense, why my O-line doesn't even pay attention to him. And last year they introduced the option where you can choose to double team players, and I thought this was a great introduction to a brand new mechanic that we could use, but then they took it out the next year, and so now my linemen will just randomly double team players I don't want them to double team, then just leaving a wide open lane for a random defender to come in and either sack me or make me lose yards on a run play. It makes no sense. And wide receivers don't even block. block, to be completely honest with you. They'll just run alongside of you and let a defender completely take you out. The animations are horrible and haven't changed since Madden 16, if we're all being completely honest. I mean, the fact that NFL 2K did animations and gameplay better than this game, and that game is almost more than 15 years old, is kind of telling to how much EA seems to care about their fan base. And the graphics are probably the worst out of every single sports game on the market. That is not a joke. This is the worst graphic-wise game I have ever seen. Not only are the customization options an issue, but they even mess up other players sometimes. You guys not remember last year when Christian McCaffrey was like black for some reason? And I don't want to hear that these are just user errors that are slipping through, because honestly, the fact that people who are at their own houses and can mod these games to have better graphics than the actual developers who make these games, the fact that they can do a better job really does not give them any excuse for the fact that this can slip up sometimes. If people at home can design these, then why can't EA hire these people, or hire people who have even better skill sets that can make the game even better? Oh wait, it's because they're cheap and they don't really care and all they want is finances. Okay, well, moving on. Franchise mode is literally a joke. I mean, just a couple of months ago, one of the top trending things on Twitter was hashtag fix franchise mode. On Twitter, it was in the top 10. I'm pretty sure it might have even reached number 1 at one point. That was trending, and they haven't done anything about it. People have been complaining for the past 3 years about franchise, and the fact that it was trending, but yet you still do not want to change anything is completely showing that you don't care about your fan base. You need to rebuild literally everything about this game mode. The coaching and the staff, the fact that you can't hire an offensive coordinator, defensive coordinator, assistant coach, and like even a scout is just crazy. The development of players is a joke. I mean, no matter who you draft, even if you somehow draft an 80 overall, which isn't going to happen, but if you were to do that, that player is never going to develop. There is no off season, so you really can't control what your team does in the off season. I mean, besides free agency and the draft, that is literally all you can do. And speaking of free agency and the draft, they are both so broken and make literally no sense. Free agency is just an all-out bidding war, and players don't have any personality traits that affect their choice, so they literally just go whichever team gives them the most money. And the NFL draft is, I don't understand how it's this bad. I mean, it's one of the worst things about Madden, because no matter what you scout, those players never end up meeting those expectations. And it's even worse because players never develop, so there's no point to even draft players if only 3 players per draft are good and the rest really never get better. What's another? Oh yeah, the biggest issue in all time of Madden is the trading. How is the trade engine this horrible? I could offer the Steelers Bobby Wagner for Mason Rudolph, and for some reason they would not be interested. I mean, hell, I could probably offer the Bears Patrick Mahomes for Mitchell Trubisky and they would still turn it down because the trade has no logic whatsoever. I mean, you look at the trades that have happened in literally just the past 2 years. Minka Fitzpatrick for a first round pick, DeAndre Hopkins for, okay, we don't want to use that one, that's a bad example, but Laramie Tunzel for a first round pick, a basic O-lineman swapping between the Panthers and the Chargers, Jalen Ramsey for a bunch of first round picks. I mean, that in itself is not a very realistic trade, but even EA wouldn't even give you more than like a 1/10 of the trade meter. I don't get it. It literally just makes no sense. And the other issues are like the whole create a team issues and these shitty ass pre-created teams that are in the game. Oh, what's that? You don't like having to be the Jacksonville Jaguars anymore and you want to maybe move to a new city and design new jerseys? Well, I hope you want to be the London Monarchs, because that's literally what you're gonna be. There is no excuse that EA can give us for why we cannot create teams, whether it's because of licensing or too much data usage, because other games are able to do this, and also because EA has had customization before in the game, so what the actual fuck? If you guys want to hear any other ideas I have about franchise mode, you guys can check out the video where I actually made a bunch of concept art for Madden 21, which was very, very wrong, because I thought EA would actually care about this game, but I was wrong. What the fuck, EA? How do the career modes keep getting worse and worse every single year? I mean, one of the most basic things is creating a player who looks like you that you can then have a career of. But the create a player is so bad, probably because the faces haven't changed in the past 6 years. I don't understand how they limit the customization of your character in Face of the Franchise, but yet in the yard, you can customize way more. It's not that much better, but it's still way more customization. And it's not like EA doesn't know how to implement good customization options, because when EA was making NBA Live, they had an iPhone face scanning app that would allow your player to look somewhat like you. And again, there are no excuses, because there is more customization in the yard than there is in the actual career mode. I mean, you can like go in and modify how deep your nose goes and how far apart your eyes are, but yet in Face of the Franchise, you're kind of just stuck with one face. And the story is absolute dog shit. Honestly, the first one you guys ever introduced, which was like Long Shot or whatever, was probably the best story out of all of them, but they've just gotten worse and worse. I mean, this is the most embarrassing and unrealistic story I have ever seen in my life. And the acting is not great either, but I'm not going to blame the actors for this because whoever is directing this isn't doing their job. And it wouldn't even surprise me if there wasn't a director, because it seems like every single take that they have is just a first take, and then they're like, all right guys, wrap it up. Time to go. Let's go home. The story itself is so linear, and it doesn't matter what you do because it just plans everything out for you. And I mean, yeah, other sports games like 2K have a roadmap where you end up getting from point A to point B, but for them, there's a way different ways you can get there. But in EA, it doesn't matter because the story just stays the same no matter what. And then once all 10 cutscenes are done, it just becomes franchise mode and you really don't want to touch the game anymore. Again, I'm going to refer you guys to my Madden 21 concept art video because I did create my own version of a career mode. So if you guys are curious what else I have to say about a Madden career mode, you guys can check out that video. Superstar KO should probably be the only game mode with X Factors. That way there's an arcade sense to the game. I mean, like I was saying earlier, the X Factors make the game completely unrealistic and take the fun out of it sometimes, but if you put it in an arcade game like Superstar KO, then it makes sense that it's there. It sets the game mode apart from all the other game modes, because honestly right now Superstar KO is just like you can sometimes get a celebrity on your team and you can mix and match all the superstars you get, but that's really all that changes here. If you have it where it's one of the only game modes with the X Factors, then players are going to want to gravitate towards that because they're going to get to use these abilities that they can't use in other game modes. I don't know how many people are going to play Superstar KO, if I'm being completely honest, but I'm guessing it's not that many just because of the introduction to the yard this year. Honestly, I'm kind of proud of EA for introducing the yard because it's a great idea, but the gameplay is so confusing, the mechanics don't make any sense that it can get a little annoying to play. And if we're being completely honest here, the only reason it was created was because 2K just got rights to an arcade game and EA doesn't want competition because they know 2K will blow them out of the water. And right now there are microtransactions within the yard, and I think, you know, that's fine, but make it kind of like Fortnite where it's all just cosmetic based. There doesn't need to be a way that you can upgrade your team like in MUT, because then it just takes the fun out of the game. And honestly, if you really want to make your fans happy, you could just combine the yard with Face of the Franchise, kind of like how 2K does My Career and The Park. The yard was a cool idea, but I feel like it was a rushed idea because Madden panicked when they heard that 2K was getting rights to make an arcade-based football game. I think you guys should still build off of it, but it wouldn't surprise me if EA abandoned it next year or if 2K just ran them out of the park with this. Okay, the biggest issue in Madden and the main reason for EA ignoring all and any other game modes that have ever existed in the history of Madden football games. Now, I'm gonna state the obvious here. I upload Ultimate Team videos, but I can still recognize when there are issues that are creating and plaguing the game.
Well, Connor, if it's bad, why do you play it?
Because it's the only NFL team building game mode that is on the market right now, okay? I really have no other options. For the first month of Ultimate Team, they give you challenges that help out people who don't want to spend money on the game and allows these players to get better players and upgrade their team, but once it seems like they reach a certain number of people on the game mode, they just stop adding in challenges and just refuse to help out players who don't want to spend money on the game. And what do they do instead of giving them challenges? They give you a bunch of advertisements for buying packs. I'm not even joking. When you log onto the game, you're almost always greeted with an ad for MUT. Yes, an advertisement for a game mode within the game you are currently playing. Now, this isn't anything new, but the game mode is such a pay-to-win game mode that it makes playing online games such a dread. But how would we fix this? Oh, I don't know, maybe put a matchmaking system so an 80 overall team can play another 80 overall team rather than a 95 overall stack team with X factors and unfair matchups is playing a poor starting off 80 overall team. And to be honest, when you see some of these 80 overall teams beating these 95 overall God squads, it really shows the skill gap and how there are so many players just buying their way through the game mode. MUT draft and squads are great ideas and they're fun game modes, but since you have to pay to play these game modes. That's right, there is a game mode here where you can play with your friends or you can draft teams, but you have to pay a fee if you want to play the game modes. I don't understand you, EA. I mean, one of the funnest things players love to do is to just draft teams and see how good of a team they can get. But when you have to pay to restart and redraft your team all over again, players do not want to do this. I mean, even a couple of years ago, it was kind of annoying because you had to wait 24 hours to redraft your team, but that's better than having to spend more coins than you would rather spend on players. I mean, honestly, within the first month of the game being out, it's like,
oh, we're gonna reward the players who want to grind.
But then after that first month, they're like,
players want to, what are those? Would you like to buy more packs?
There are just so many issues within Madden, and it kind of all comes back to the introduction of Ultimate Team because it's the easiest cash grab that EA has right now. And how can we fix all these issues? Well, I actually do have some ideas. Number 1. Make Ultimate Team its own game. I'm not talking like its own game mode how it is right now. I'm talking its own game on the PlayStation Store that is a free game that you can simply download. It is a game mode that if you want, since you guys love your money, you can keep the microtransactions in it. But this allows players who really just get Madden for Ultimate Team, it allows them to play the game for free, especially for the no money spent players. And then when the Madden game does get patches and roster updates and graphic updates, you can just put those exact patches to the Ultimate Team game mode. I'm not gonna lie, you guys do a great job of this on your mobile game mode. The fact that when the new Madden is about to come out, it just kind of resets your old team, I think that's a great idea. That way Ultimate Team has its own game, and that way just once the new Madden comes out, your team resets and you can start over all again. And it's not like players are gonna stop buying packs. If we're being completely honest, if the game is free, you're probably gonna have people spending more money on packs because they're assuming that they got the game for free. It's just look at like Fortnite, who does this great. Even though those are all cosmetic and they don't affect how the game is. Fortnite makes so much money and that game is free. So if you were going to do that with a game mode that actually, if you were to buy packs, would help your team out, then you're probably going to still make a bunch of money. This allows EA to keep their audience, but they're still making money. The fact that their mobile Ultimate Team game modes are better than their console Ultimate Team game modes is kind of wild. And this also allows the MUT developers to be separated from the Madden developers, and thus Madden is created without the need to build the game around a mode that already makes the most money. Speaking of money, actually, maybe spend the money you've made on the game you're developing and don't hoard all the money to yourselves. Because when Madden 20 makes, I don't know, more than $2 billion, billion with a fucking B, billion, and you're telling me that you guys spent all of that on Madden 21, because I don't think you guys even spent a quarter or a fifth or a sixth or a tenth of that on the game. And I will point out to you that even if they did spend a quarter of it on Madden 21, that's still $500 million. If you look at a game like GTA 5, which came out 7 years ago and had a budget of $265 million, and the fact that that game, which is 7 years older and has a massive map and a countless number of NPCs, weather simulations, and other things EA would just have nightmares about having to develop, but not only the fact that somehow GTA has better customization and better graphics than Madden, but the point here is it's 7 years old. That game would have cost an eighth of what Madden 20 made to make. That would have cost $265 million. If you were to spend a quarter, which was $500 million, I don't understand how you would make a bad game. And it's not like you would be losing out on money, because here's the thing, if you make a good game, you're probably gonna sell more copies. It's like whoever runs EA just has no logic or no intel about how to run a company or a business in any way, shape, form, or idea. And speaking of the people who run EA, they need to fire the top executives of EA. You don't need to fire the bottom level developers, because they're just designing a game that they're told to design in ways that they are then told to design it. But when you have top level execs saying things like number 2 is better than number 1 and stuff like that, it's most likely time to clean house. When I was writing the notes for this video, hashtag NFL Drop EA was number 3 on trending. This is huge because people aren't going to just boycott the game and not play it, because it's the only football game on the market and most of the audience is children and they don't understand the point of a boycott. But the fact that in the span of less than 3 months, both hashtag NFL Drop EA and hashtag Fix Madden franchise have been in the top 10 of trending on Twitter shows that people want change and EA is just exclusively choosing to ignore it. And right now on Twitter, Madden 21 is trending because EA seems to be giving out an unprecedented amount of codes for just free games. Like usually EA lets a couple NFL players give away the game, but I mean, EA is letting people with like 200 followers on Twitter do a giveaway of Madden 21 copies. Imagine how the players who pre-ordered this game for $100 and the players who have EA access so they could have played it for an extra week earlier, imagine how they feel right now. You are essentially saying to them, oh, thanks for your money, that's all that we really care about. EA is honestly a joke, and I don't understand how they can continue getting away with the shit that they pull. I did put out a tweet with hashtag NFL Drop EA, and honestly, the fact that it is my number 1 tweet of all time and kind of low-key blew up really shows that people want change. The image that I tweeted shows that Madden 21 not only has the lowest Metacritic rating of Madden history.
But it also has the lowest rating in Metacritic history. That's right. Madden 21 is the lowest rated game of all time.
But you know that somehow Madden 22 is going to be even worse. Hey guys, I know the video is over. I just want to give a quick shout out to everyone that stuck around for this video. This is something that I've been trying to make for a pretty long time now. It really bothers me how ruthless and just uncaring EA is about Madden in general. And I don't understand how they can keep getting away with treating their customers like garbage. It boggles my mind, but I mean, when you're the only NFL game out there, I guess it does kind of make sense. So hopefully when 2K puts out their first arcade game mode, the NFL will then see that 2K is being received in a way better light than EA, and hopefully NFL will just give 2K the rights, and hopefully the EA never gets rights to making anything ever again. I mean, I love the history that Madden has, but after like Madden 12 and Madden 13, the game just kind of fell apart. Anyway, thank you guys for sticking around and through this entire pretty long video. If you're new here, please consider subscribing and definitely giving this a like. I would love to make more content like this in the future, and if you guys do want to check it out, you guys can check out all the other content that I make, and I'll see you guys later.